called What Would Google Do? Now, how would Google organize, I don't know, financial services? How would Google organize a supermarket? A lot of companies are already pretty smart at looking at other companies, but you need to be more elegant in that. In COVID times, virtually everybody has adopted the IKEA model. Looks like this. Everybody's now following arrows. Here also in this building, we follow arrows, lines, and we take 1.5 meters apart and things. The eye care hospital in Rotterdam thought about doing the same thing. They wanted to make their procedures faster and more efficient because they had a few cases that people came for an operation and a little thing went wrong because they didn't take away all the little tiny pieces of cloth or anything. Also in an eye, if one little piece of cloth stays there, it's a big problem. They also wanted to get more throughput, higher quality. So they figured out, where do we learn? From which other area can we learn how they also have high volume in throughput, but they have high also levels of safety measures, because that's what we need in a hospital. And they went out to learn from Schiphol Airport. And this is also already from a few years ago, because virtually all operating rooms, theaters they're called now, operating theater, and then the surgeon comes on stage and the nurse is there and everything. It's like a Shakespeare thing, an operating theater. Fantastic. Anyway, it's just an operating room or an operating theater. It's actually multiple operating rooms in one area. But anyway, you see these lines on the floor. Same thing, if you go with an airplane into an airport, you stop at the line, you follow the lines. And the yellow lines, green lines, they all have a meaning. Same thing here, you have stop positions of your materials, you have floor markings, and also the check, double check system. If you're an engineer working on an airplane, you are allowed to work on an engine on one side of the airplane, then you walk over to the other side of the airplane, and you cannot touch the engine because your colleague has done that engine. You are just there to check and inspect visually. And your colleague does exactly the same thing. He or she is also not allowed to touch the engine, but they can only visually inspect. And that's the basics of the check, double check system. Hospitals have now also done this. All nurses also have the check, double check systems. They check if we have removed all the needles and all the materials, 24 cloths, then there should be 24 cloths back on the table. So you see all these things are transferred, and the eye care hospital learned from KLM, from Toyota, indeed from Schiphol, but also from Albert Heijn, the Dutch retailer, on how to make their throughput faster. So these are little things that I love to collect and to take along. Now I want to do a short little exercise with you, just to show how this works. Let me dive in there. Bear with me. All right, what are the tools that we're going to talk about? It's called the Business Synonyms Method. Here you see a bicycle somewhere in China. For some people, a bicycle is ecology. For some people, it's equality. And for some people, it means independence. What does a bicycle mean for you? Shout.
Transport.
Transport, yeah. What else? Exercise, nice. Eh? Yeah. What else?
Freedom.
Freedom, yeah. What else?
Eco-friendly.
Eco-friendly, for sure, yeah. Cool. We all have additional associations to a, in this case, visual thing of a bicycle. But you can also have the same thing on a word. Here's an accomplishment. Maybe you won a prize. Here's another accomplishment, technical accomplishment, putting someone on the moon and getting them safely back. Or if you have kids, I have kids. Anyone here has kids? Believe me, as soon as you have kids, this is quite an accomplishment. And they are all accomplishments in their own rights. Let's play with that a moment. If we look at a word customer, you also have the word client. What is the main difference between a customer and a client?
A customer gets something from you and a client gets your knowledge.
It could be. A customer gets something from you, physical goods maybe, and a client gets your knowledge. Could be, yeah. What else?
You work for clients, but maybe you're not personally working for a customer.
Could certainly be the case, yeah.
So for my work, our customer is a nursing home, but our clients are the people in the nursing home.
Yeah, nice, nice. Yeah, yeah. So you have the multiple things. So you have customers, also user at the end of the thing. For me, it's pretty simple. They're exactly the same thing. But some people say, no, no, no. A client is relational and a customer is transactional. So Albert Heijn has customers and a lawyer has clients. I think that's beautiful. But at the end of the day, something happens and someone needs to pay the other one. So for me, it's simple. A customer and client are exactly the same things. A client just pays 200 times more. So at Albert Heijn, you do your groceries for 25 euros, and a lawyer, you speak half an hour with them, they charge you 500.
You could also go to the Albert Heijn and just visit and leave again and not buy anything. And with a lawyer, that's not really the case.
No, and it needs to be a really good friend. Huh?
Yeah.
I know, with a lawyer, so you just verify something on the phone because they charge per second. Huh? Absolutely crazy. I have a friend of mine, Leon, she's absolutely brilliant, but she has a clock. As soon as someone calls, she hits the button. As soon as it's over, she hits the button again. 50 euros. And she just said yes. So brilliant. I think it's a brilliant business model in itself, but also costs for lawyers. They need to be have all kinds of subscriptions to databases and law books and keep updated. So there's also different cost structure to it. The key here is to see that on meta level, these are the same things, but we just work differently with them. Little other example, if I walk into a grocery store and grab a bag of chips, open it up and start to eat, what happens then? I'm not sure if I'm a criminal. What happens?
Security come or stuff?
Well, no, normally not directly security, but normally someone from the shop will come to easily remind me to please pay for the bag of chips. Huh? Technically, you can do that in a supermarket, but you cannot pass the cash register without paying. But it's not done. Huh? There's an unwritten rule that we don't open up. Little kids do that. They start eating because they cannot control their urges. But we, in general, we've agreed that we don't directly eat all the chips and things. Now, if I go to a restaurant, supposing somewhere in not so much distant future, we all get to go to a restaurant together. Don't know if you know what these things look like. There's places with tables and stuff, and you can have food together. I know it's a wild concept thinking about it now, but they are real, or at least they used to be. They will be, I hope. Now, if you go to a restaurant, you can eat. You can buy a fantastic Chardonnay. You can drink. No one will come, let alone that they call security, because only at the end we pay. And technically, the same thing, a place to get food. But somehow we have the written or unwritten rules that on one we pay up front, because otherwise you're in trouble. And the second one, no, you pay at the end. It would be not so nice to have you pay up front. Some restaurants. But you see these unwritten rules, and these unwritten rules are stuff we can play with. Because if we look at customers, indeed, this first lady is a customer, because she's in retail somewhere. The lady getting into the back of a taxi, what do we call her? A passenger, bingo. And this nice lady in front of the blackboard, she is a student, bingo. Same thing, different words. Now, how can we play with that? I want to do a little exercise with you. Look for a buddy. That's normally a beautiful person sitting pretty close to you. That's your buddy. And I want, between the two of you, I want you to come up with 21 different synonyms for the word customer. So customer, client, student, passenger, patient, go. 21. Go, go, go. Let's see who's fastest. And also in the chat, go ahead, type it in. Type in as many synonyms as possible. All right, stop. Who of you has 21? Who of you has 21? Oh, no. Oh, my God. I overestimated you. What a mess. I thought you would be done. I had the drink. I put the camera straight and everything. All right. Problem? Because you are the hope of the future. Huh? I normally do this with old boring executives. They look like me. They're middle-aged, bald, a little bit overweighted. That's the kind of people I normally do this with. And some nice women there, but minority. They normally do what you do. They do the hard work. They sit together, take a piece of paper, old school technology. It's from, I think it's from the Egyptians. It's about 4,000 years ago, percament and everything, paper. And some of them actually use their phones. But what do they use their phones for? To make notes. Who of you actually Googled synonyms for the word customer? All right, very good. Hey, congratulations, you win a book. Because that's the way you do it. You don't do the hard work, you do the smart work. This is a little riddle you should have solved that within 17 seconds. Because then you would have gotten something like this. Customer, client, consumer, student, patient, shopper, buyer, purchaser, stakeholder, end user, patron, prospect, supplier, complainer, payment, beep, and you continue. So, from now on, don't do the hard work, do the smart work. This is something you can easily have a computer do for you.
But it's just like it's not necessarily justified to say this is smart work because you're using unreliable information from the internet, and while now it may be smart, in 2 seconds you realize like some of those are clearly bullshit. Like it's not smart, and you've actually spent more time because you're gonna end up doing it yourself anyway.
That's absolutely true.
And it would have been smarter to just do the hard work, and then you would have reliable information that you can actually use.
But you need to be smart about when to do the hard work. And in this case, for this little exercise, the hard work is in a little bit later, the conceptual thing, but I think you also earned the book, man. I think that's an absolutely brilliant thing. So indeed, we need to be wise about where we use it. Now, why is this relevant? Why do we need this list of synonyms? Because we're going to play with them. Let me take a general innovation question. Here we go. How can we get more customers to visit our store? So the word customer, visit, and store are the crucial words here. If we then do this little synonyms exercise with that, and indeed do some harder work of really stretching it up, because Google takes your synonyms most often too literally, we're looking for adjacent synonyms, and sometimes even further away. Because then you get customers, students, stakeholders, passengers, teachers, visit, call at, stay at, stop at, store, website, pop-up, warehouse, outlet, you name it. And then things become interesting because then we can DJ. The original question is, how do we get more customers to visit our store? In a moment, you were making that your own question. And if we start to mix these things, then we get, how do we get more investors to stay at our warehouse? This gives a certain answer. In this answer, we then need to transfer back to the original question. And then things become interesting. So how do you get investors to stay at your warehouse? How do you do that? Shoot, give me an idea. How do we get an investor to stay at our warehouse?
A good party?
Yeah, give a party. Yeah.
Make it affordable.
Make it affordable, yeah. Yeah, you convince an investor it's a good idea, and they will spend money there. Smart. So make, and if we then use that answer to transform that back to the original question, how do we get customers to visit our store? What should we then do with customers?
Customer satisfaction.
Could be, but if you look at the investor thing, how? Yeah, also convince them, also make them invest in the shop. Supposing we give everybody shares of Albert Heijn, would you then go and buy stuff at Jumbo? No, because it's in your interest to make Albert Heijn successful. So go next level in the loyalty card thing, make people shareholder of Albert Heijn. And that's actually a smart idea. Or you think, no, it's a terrible idea because of a million reasons. Now, we then mix ideas again, and we say, how do we get more students to stay at our app? How do you get students to stay in your app?
Give them coffee.
Give them a rebate, yeah, very good. What else? How do you get students to stay in an app?
Make it addictive.
Make it addictive. Gamification in there. You get a reward. Infinite scrolling. You name it. Little dopamine shots. She likes you. She like. Oh no, my wife. Oh here. Anyway, so dopamine glued to your phone. Eh? Now that's how you keep students in an app. How do you then use that idea, that concept, transfer it back to your original question? How do you get customers to visit our store? Also, maybe introduce some gamification in there or things. Now, this is the basics of this technique. How do you get stakeholders to reside in your silo? It doesn't matter. Some of these things make no sense. Some you think, hey, that's absolutely really smart. Let's look at a few other areas, other applications. How do we get partners to sell other services? How do we get clients to love our brand? How do we get X to Y, our or their Z? Now I have a little assignment, both for you at home, hello, and both for you here. The advantage if you're physically here is that they'll be getting a beer coaster, and if you're at home, I also have a nice exercise for you, and a free book at the end, don't worry. So we're going to go for a little assignment. Holy cow, you say? So here I want you to make teams of about, let's say, 5 people. Your team captain is the person with the longest hair. You and I normally lose this game. Got it? Very good. You have 5 minutes to define your challenge. No longer, because it's not about the actual challenge. Figure out something someone is working or is passionate about. But just define a challenge, and the person with the longest hair will take the decision and go. Normally that's a woman, so it's better decisions. Focus on a specific activity or process. Convert that into that sentence. How can we get X or to Y or to Y, R, or their Z, and come up with radical new cross-industry solutions. So here is the assignment for people at home. If you can find a buddy, go ahead. If not, you can easily do it yourself. Take a piece of paper, landscape mode, write the sentence on top, then come with these 3 lists of synonyms and start mixing. And then finally, the answers of the different questions, you transform them back to your original question. And the people here will actually be getting a beer coaster. Here we go. This beer coaster has the same thing that's written on here, but then on a beer coaster. I'm from Belgium, you need to do something. Take one, pause the restaurant, please. Take one, pause the restaurant. Make friends. All right. For the people at home, it's just a beer coaster. Here it is. Downloadable. Nice. I don't know if it's nice, but it works. It has some example sentences in there. And just use Google, but also in case, maybe do the hard work sometimes to make sure that you stretch your thinking wide enough. Google has a tendency to take synonyms which are close, but you're looking for more adjacent. So make here, physically in the room, teams of 5 people. The person with the longest hair is your team captain. Good luck with it. You have in total 25 minutes for this. So people at home, make coffee while you think of your sentence and come up with synonyms. And here, also take coffee, go to the restroom. 5 minutes to define your challenge, 20 minutes to apply this technique. Good luck. Go, go, go. Let me put on a little music while you're doing this. Ja, misschien een kopje koffie. Here we go, here's the assignment. Go ahead. You have 25 minutes. 2:45.